I'm going to start this video with something brutally honest, something most men feel but rarely say out loud. It's not intimacy they're afraid of, it's rejection. That exact moment when everything seems to be flowing perfectly. The conversation is smooth, the energy feels right, there's chemistry in the air, and then suddenly, she pulls back. Her tone changes, her body language shifts, the warmth disappears, and just like that, the entire vibe collapses, and you're left there thinking, what did I do wrong? Here's the truth. Most men don't fear intimacy itself. They fear that emotional hit, that silent rejection that makes them question their confidence, their value, their entire approach. But what if I told you something that could completely change the way you experience that moment forever? What if I told you there is a way to move toward intimacy without sounding desperate, without applying pressure, and without triggering rejection at all? A way that doesn't rely on manipulation, not on tricks, not on force, but on understanding something much deeper. Female emotional psychology. How attraction builds, how desire grows, and how women actually decide when they're ready and who they want to be ready with. Because once you understand this, you stop chasing, you stop guessing, and you start creating moments where intimacy feels inevitable. Now, before we go deeper, let me hook you in with something almost no one talks about. Women don't reject intimacy. Let me say that again slowly, because this alone can shift everything for you. Women don't reject intimacy. They reject the feeling attached to it. If the emotional experience feels rushed, pressured, forced, awkward, the answer is no. But if it feels natural, safe, exciting, emotionally aligned, the answer doesn't need to be asked, it unfolds. And what you're about to learn is how to create that exact emotional experience without ever putting yourself in a position to be rejected. Now let's go deeper. Every man who struggles with rejection usually makes one or more of these mistakes. He asks too directly. He asks too soon. He asks with nervous, uncertain energy, or worst of all, he asks without building any emotional tension beforehand. And here's the part that most men completely miss. Women don't decide intimacy logically. They don't sit there analyzing pros and cons like a checklist. They decide emotionally, in the moment, based on how they feel around you. The moment she feels safe, the moment she feels understood, the moment she feels desired but not pressured, and most importantly, emotionally connected, that's when the door opens, not because you asked perfectly, but because the feeling was right. Now here's where everything changes. You need to understand this at a deeper level. Women experience attraction completely differently than men. For men, attraction is fast, visual, instant. You see someone attractive, and your body reacts immediately. But for women, attraction is layered. It builds slowly. It accumulates through your emotional experiences, context, safety, and anticipation. That's why a woman can meet a man and feel absolutely nothing, and then weeks later, find herself thinking about him, drawn to him, wanting to be close to him, not because she changed randomly, but because her attraction needed time to develop. And when you understand this, you stop rushing the process, you stop forcing moments, and you start creating an environment where her desire builds naturally, without resistance. Now let's get into the first principle, the one that alone can change everything for you. You never ask directly. Let me repeat that, because this is powerful. You never ask a woman for intimacy directly, because the moment you ask directly, you create pressure, and pressure triggers resistance, and resistance leads to rejection. But when you shift from asking to inviting emotionally, everything changes. She doesn't feel pushed. She doesn't feel cornered. She feels like she's choosing. And when a woman feels like the decision is hers, rejection almost disappears. Now let me show you what's happening psychologically. There are 3 emotional switches that must turn on for intimacy to happen: safety, trust, and anticipation. Miss even one of these, and she holds back. But activate all 3, and everything flows. Safety is created through your presence, your calmness, your emotional stability. When you're grounded, when you're not reactive, when you're not trying too hard. She feels safe. Trust is built when your words match your actions, when you say you're not rushing and you actually don't rush. When you respect her boundaries without making her feel guilty, that builds trust and anticipation. That's where the magic happens. That's the tension, the space between what is and what could be, that feeling that something is about to happen but hasn't yet. That's what makes intimacy feel electric instead of mechanical. Now here's something most men completely overlook. They focus so much on being attractive, funny, confident, impressive, and all of that matters, but none of it converts into intimacy unless those 3 emotional switches are active. Now let's talk about one of the smoothest psychological shifts you can use, the soft withdrawal effect. Instead of leaning in, you lean back, not cold, not distant, just slightly, just enough to remove pressure. And when you do that, something interesting happens. She starts leaning in, because when pressure disappears, her natural desire has space to surface. Now let's go deeper into another powerful technique, the implanted thought shift. This is subtle, but incredibly effective. You don't ask, you plant a feeling. You say things like, "I like how easy it feels being around you. You have a calm energy. It's rare. You're surprisingly easy to be close to." None of these push. None of these demand anything, but all of them guide her awareness toward the emotional connection. And once she becomes aware of that feeling, she starts moving toward it on her own. Now here's the part most men get completely wrong. If you want her to open up, you need to stay grounded, calm, present, not needy, not tense, not outcome focused. Because when a man is calm, a woman relaxes, and when she relaxes, her guard drops, and when her guard drops, desire becomes natural. Now here's another powerful shift. Never ask for a yes. Ask for a feeling, because when you ask for a yes, you create pressure. But when you ask about how she feels, you create connection. Instead of saying, "Do you want to?" you say, "Does this feel right to you? Are you comfortable right now?" Now she's not being forced to decide. She's simply checking in with herself, and that changes everything. Now let's talk about alignment, mirroring her energy. This is where most men either overdo it or completely miss it. If she leans in, you lean in. If she softens, you soften. If she holds eye contact, you hold it. Not more, not less, just enough. This creates a subconscious feeling of we're on the same wavelength, and that feeling is powerful. And now, the final step, the one that removes rejection completely. You make it the moment's idea, not yours. You don't ask, you acknowledge. This feels really good right now. It's crazy how natural this feels. You have a really calming energy. Now you're not asking for anything. You're just expressing what's already happening. And when a woman feels the moment, she follows it. That's the difference between chasing and attracting, between pressure and pull, between rejection and connection. Now listen, if this shifted your perspective even a little, If you felt something click in your mind, don't just watch and leave, because most men will hear this and still go back to their old habits, but not you. Hit that like button. Subscribe right now to Love, Lies, and Reality. Because this channel isn't about surface level advice. It's about understanding the psychology that actually works in the real world. And when you understand it, you don't just improve your results, you change the way you experience women completely. And after this video, go watch the next one, because what you're learning here is just the beginning.